AI, it's everywhere. It's writing, it's coding, it's even designing. And honestly, it's getting really good at it. Now, in this age of AI, how do you stay relevant as a designer, also as a creative human being, becomes the most important question. And that is not your software skills. It's definitely not your speed of execution anymore. It's something beyond that, and it's something very fundamental, which is making the right decision. Because in the world where you prompt something and AI will give you thousands of options, the real power is making that right choice for your decision. Now, many people say that decision making is important. That decision making highly depends on your taste. Now, everyone knows that taste is important, but very few understand the framework to build the right taste. In my own professional career as a motorcycle designer, I have been following this process and it is doing wonders to my career. Today, I'll be sharing that framework, which is very simple. And the best part, it is not limited to only design. Any creative field, you can apply it and you can excel in your career. But before we go there, let me tell you a story. There were two lumberjacks. They used to go to the same forest. They would chop wood starting at the same time in the morning and finish their work at the same time in the evening. But one of them, let's call him the lazy guy, he takes long afternoon breaks. But somehow, he ends up chopping more wood compared to the sincere guy. Now, this goes on for months. The sincere guy obviously gets frustrated and he asks lazy guy, how's this possible that you are taking long breaks, still you're chopping more wood than me? Where are you going in those breaks? The lazy guy simply answers that every afternoon I go to my home, I sharpen my axe and come back. That sharpened axe helps me cut wood faster. Now, this is an old story, but if it was written today, that tool which was axe there would have been artificial intelligence, and the skill would have been making right decision. Now you must be thinking that why is he stressing so much on the decision making part? Let me show you these two cars. Now these two cars, they are generated by using the same AI platform, using the same exact prompt. But somehow, one of them, it feels more sporty. It feels more race oriented, more aggressive, isn't it? Now here's the catch. This decision, what felt more sporty, is done by you, not the AI. And that separates you as a creator from just a prompt writer. And that's why making the right decision becomes more important, and having that sensitivity towards what feels right becomes extraordinarily important. And that is nothing but taste. Now, as I said, that I have been following this method, which I call it as OLT. There's a common myth that people feel that right taste is only limited to gifted people and it comes by naturally or by birth. But it's a skill, it's a muscle, and anyone can build it. You just need to have the right framework. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to build this framework which I have been using for myself along with you guys. Okay. So, I call this process as OLT, which is observation, logic, and trends. Very simple to remember. Let's start with the first one, O, which is observation. Imagine your brain as a huge Pinterest board. Whatever you are seeing, whatever you are observing, whatever you are experiencing, everything is getting stored there. And we designers like to call it as our visual library. Now, here's the truth. Your visual library comes from the exposure you have, and your taste depends on the kind of exposure you are having. If you expose yourself to average work, your work will become average. And that's why exposure is important. And for me as a designer, I like to travel. I like to engage myself with different customers. I like to involve myself into different cultures and experiences because that is helping me to build my own visual library. Now, this visual library is nothing but your experiences. It's like a collective box. Now, observation is okay. Many people are good at observing things, they are really good at noticing things. But very few understand the next step, which is decoding observation, which is nothing but L, that is logic. So, L, which is logic, now logics are nothing but rules. You must have heard common rules like golden ratio or rule of thirds or color theory. These are nothing but logics developed by legendary designers based on their own observations. Now, here's the real shift. Great designers, they don't rely only on these commonly available logics. They build their own. So for example, I am an automotive designer, and one of the common emotion we chase through our forms is motion. Because we want our cars and motorcycles to look dynamic, sporty, almost in motion, even when they are static, when they are standing in the parking. And that comes from imbalance. So the common logic we follow is avoiding 50-50 ratio. Now that's a common, understanding we all automotive designers have. So while sketching, while 3D modeling, while sculpting that clay, we avoid that 50-50 ratio because that's what creates motion, that's what creates imbalance, and that's the logic we follow. Now this is just one of the logics. We follow hundreds of such logics, and that's the thing that makes observation converted into understanding. And something beautiful about logic is that it makes replicate those observations, those rules, what has worked in the past, faster in your day-to-day work. And that's why logics are very important. Now, observation and logics, they are important. But the third pillar, this is the most commonly ignored parameter of this entire chart, which is trends. Because what is relevant today is not going to be relevant after a couple of years. And that's why you need to have that complement of trends along with your observation and logics. Now you need to understand that all these three, they are very, very important. If you ignore one of them, this entire chart will not work. For example, if you are really good at observation and logic, but bad at understanding trends, you'll be a great executor, but you will lack relevance. If you are really good at observation and trends, you will be a good forecaster, but you will lack execution. If you are really good at logic and trends, you'll be a good philosopher. You often come across these kind of people who lack observation, who lack wisdom, but they are incredible at telling stories that in practical world, it doesn't work. And that's why all these three things in the right balance will give you the right taste. Now, in this age of AI, it's very important to understand the importance of right taste. And that's why you need to start observing deeply. You need to decode them. You need to build your own logics. And you need to understand trends. Because in this world where you prompt something and AI is giving you options for everything, the real power will not come from creating more. It will come from choosing better. And I believe that is the last creative edge we have as human beings. That is taste. That was my time. Thank you so much.